It's Guillermo. Emil Muck to you. Welcome to my takeout. My takes on all things considerable. It's a Friday. The Queen's. Are you in line? Are you in 5 miles of line to see the Queen? Are you queuing up for the Queen? I called London today and actually talked to a person about the Queen, about her concern. Her concern is the Queen's guards have bearskin on their heads. Did you know that? Those, I guess, the beefeater caps? Caps, they're more than caps. They're like these huge little growths. Anyway, they're bearskin. Did you know that? I mean, do they have to be bearskin? I mean, they could be a nice polyester, a nice synthetic, perhaps. I mean, it would be more ethical. It would be more humane. And actually, I was surprised that this has been an ongoing campaign to get those bearskin caps off the heads of the royal guards. So if you're in line to go see the Queen, you happen to be like on your phone on amok.com or YouTube and just say, "Oh, here's Emil Amok talking about the guards' bearskin caps." Well, maybe now with the death of the Queen, it'll be up to King Charles, to say, in the first act, my first duty as king, I'm going to have those guards take their bearskins off their heads. Pete has been looking at trying to get a nice synthetic replacement. And, you thought maybe the Queen was going to go with it because she said her personal fur. No more personal fur for the Queen. And she was nice to her corgis. Her horses, another thing. Oh, also the pigeons. She's into pigeon racing. You know that? Well, so many peccadillos for such a diminutive woman with a big, broad appetite. But those bearskin caps gotta go. They gotta go. Once again, welcome to the Takeout. Emil Muck's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. We're here Monday through Friday talking about the news. I am your semi-accomplished journalist, actual journalist who likes to do talk shows on the web. And I just react to the news. This is show 391, 390 yesterday. We reacted to the Martha's Vineyard thing. Of course, it was calculated. The Washington Post reported that they got it sourced from people who were at some fundraising meetings that DeSantis went to. And he said, I've got the money. I got to do something. It's all about shifting the political focus away from abortion and the Dobbs ruling, which overturned Roe, which the Republicans are losing on, and shifting it to another hot button of their liking, which is immigration, which is a hot button that is kind of dormant because no one wants to do anything. And that really is the key thing that we should mention right up top today. It's time for everyone to come to the table, Republican and Democrat, and talk about a solution. There are a lot of ways to get into the immigration situation and to clean it up, make it better. But, there's a lot of heavy lifting with backlogs on visas, on everything. I mean, the Philippines, right? My forebears, or maybe just 3 of them. But no, the backlog on applications for citizenship, for entry, and then the green card citizenship, it's years. And a bureaucratic nightmare. That's got to be fixed. We all know it's a broken system. but it's broken in so many ways. They could start feeling good by going after that low-hanging fruit being do something about the Dreamers, DACA, that would help. But all the Republicans can do is to point to, oh, look at the border. The border's terrible. Let's people know about the border. Look, here's the thing about the border. I think it's important to note that most of these people, the 50 who are shipped to Martha's Vineyard, were not, they were people seeking asylum. They had legitimate claims. They were not undocumented, as they say. They were not, or as some people like to say, illegal. They didn't have their papers, but they had court dates. They were in the process of going through the asylum procedure. They were not illegal. So they were undocumented. And so there's some question now about the legality about what happened yesterday. Because, look, the asylum issue it's all under the umbrella of immigration. But immigration is this vast problem. And you could do a lot just by clearing up this asylum problem. So the question of if something was done illegally is really on the GOP. Already, my governor, I'm in California Governor Gavin Newsom has asked the Justice Department to look into if there was anything illegal done by those who maybe approached these immigrants, these migrants, and said, maybe offered a pretense of promises. What did they say? Was there something that lured them that was a lie? So yesterday I said flat out, this was just a stunt. It was human trafficking, immigration style. I guess they're all immigration cases. But this was a kind of trafficking, a form of trafficking that's disgusting when it's used for political purposes, which is the way DeSantis intended, and it's the way that Abbott is. DeSantis with his smirk saying, well, we're not a sanctuary state. We're going to do all we can to help people, get to these sanctuary cities. Yeah, right. So a person who legally has an appointment on asylum issues, maybe in Portland or California, you're shipping them out to Martha's Vineyard. But why Martha's Vineyard? Well, Martha's Vineyard, that's where, big name folks like the Clintons, they're in Martha's Vineyard. Spike Lee, Seth Meyers, all sorts of, Tony, popular, well-known Americans. I don't want to say they're always rich and wealthy, because rich and wealthy is a relative thing. But DeSantis knew what he was doing. And I'm curious, he's probably going to have some kind of immunity because he's governor. But it would be interesting if he had his cohorts, his seconds going out there, beating the bushes, looking for these people, offering these people a trip to fix all their problems, free meals, you're in America. I'm curious what happens. DeSantis probably won't take the fall for that. But there are people looking into whether or not the stunt, the prank pulled by DeSantis and Abbott to a degree, because DeSantis was in Florida. His folks went to Texas to get these migrants. But it's all that troika of Republican governors, Ducey, Arizona, Abbott in Texas, DeSantis in Florida, trying to be the next Trump. And as long as we expose it for what it is, maybe it won't have the bad impact of riling up that Trump base, that Republican base, but maybe it will rile up the people who will see it for what it is, an inhumane act, an act not worthy of anyone who calls themselves a leader in America. It was just disgusting and maybe even illegal. So I had more to say about that on show 390. Check that out later. I'm a little upset today. I had an agonizing night. I was bent over. I think it was either bad fruit, bad blueberries, or I had something. I don't know. My wife had everything I had except the blueberries, so maybe the culprit's the blueberries. I don't think they're from Mexico. I don't know. Product USA, it said. I eat the frozen ones. They're cooler. So I had a terrible night. And then I had to think, look, no matter how bad I felt, I mean, it's nothing compared to something fatal, something really serious. And then I had to think about my friend, Henry Fuhrmann. Henry Fuhrmann was an Asian American Journalist Association member. That's how I knew him. LA Times editor. I'm looking at his the title on his obituary. Henry Fuhrmann, Times editor and word nerd, who fought for fairness in grammar, dies. You know, this was the other day, on the 14th. They published this. Actually, late on the 14th, on the web, and then it hit the 15th, yesterday. Frankly, I was doing this show and I was going over some tweets. I saw a tweet from AAJA that they had named Henry Fuhrmann or given him a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I thought, yeah, Henry deserves it. 65 years old. You know, he climbed, got his job at the LA Times in 91, climbed up the ladder, became head editor there, the library of copy. And I thought it was something that the AAJ had done in conjunction with their last convention. So I didn't really think much of it. I just put a like on it and moved on. Then I had an exchange with another friend, Richard Prince from Journalisms. He writes a column on Media Watch from a Black, Indigenous, people of color perspective. And he writes a piece that Henry had died. And then we had an exchange. He said, you know, people don't talk about cause of death much. Like even with the Queen, they just said she died, like old age. I saw another story today about how in Japan, no one talks about what people die of. They just say old age. I don't like saying people die of old age because it makes old age sound like something terminal. And old age is not terminal. Old age should be celebrated for as long as you can hold out, I suppose. So my friend Richard was saying he had exchanges with Henry like a month ago because Richard asked me if I was going to AAJ this year. I wasn't because I was concerned about COVID and whatnot. It was in LA, still somewhat skittish, not ready to go public. But of course, Henry was there, and so were some other people I know. Most of them survived. Henry didn't. But Henry didn't have COVID. it turns out, from another Asian American journalist friend, Randall Yip, executive editor of ASAM News. He said, he reported that it actually was esophageal cancer, which was pretty quick. I mean, that was the thing that got Richard. He just didn't know. He said, I talked to him in August. Said he was not feeling well. Here we are in September. There was no sense of what happened in his Facebook post. And then Randall revealed it in his reporting. I know it's personal, but it's also instructive because other people get these kind of cancers. And other people should know about screening. Other people should know about what to do if they catch it in time. You know, what stage. Clearly it was in an advanced stage if it happened so quickly. I've had friends with stomach cancer, lung cancer, and they just find out one day and they're gone the next. Take care of your health. I mean, that's the lesson. But it was so sudden. And like I said, I was doubled over in pain from my blueberry attack. And I thought, and I'm using my meditative skills, right, to deal with the pain. So thank goodness, you know, the meditation does work. But it brings you to a space where the pain doesn't go away. Your tolerance for the pain is at a high level. And you can pretty much deal with life even though you're like bent over. But thinking about Henry put things in perspective. And then I just thought of all the times I saw Henry, usually at AAJA functions, the Asian American Journalists Association functions. Henry was this kind of, you'd look at him and you'd say, I see the Asianness, right? He's half Japanese, half Dutch German, I believe his extraction. His father was Dutch German, mother was Japanese. And from his obituary, he was born on a naval ship, I believe, if I recall correctly, and grew up in LA, went to Caltech, got the journalism bug. And so when I met him as a member of AAJA, always helpful. Like I said, you know, the Japanese was in, you could see. And there's a lot of people now, you know, they don't really come right out and say, I'm half, but you know something's going on. A good thing, right? I mean, there's this one star on Shrill who's trans, and she's half Vietnamese, but with a white name. I mean, she's on Shrill. But I looked at her and I knew there's Asian there. And you got your Asian Dar. That's a hybrid of the other famous Dars out there that detect Asianness. Same with the Notre Dame quarterback who got hurt. So I always liked Henry because he was an editor. And look, I'm a reporter. I'm a journalist. I go out there, get the story. I write it up. I express myself. I, write columns. I do that. I love editors. because they make me sound better and they don't demand their byline next to mine. I love a good editor. And even though I never worked with Henry, just in dealing with him, that this is the guy. This is the guy that you can talk to and you can have a relationship with, because when you are talking with an editor over a piece, you are having a relationship over that piece. And can you communicate to each other from the piece what it is you want? And can you to each other communicate what's wrong and how to make it better? It really becomes a kind of co-authorship in a way, right? And the worst editors will want co-authorship. The best would say, no, it's your work. I just only did my thing as an editor. I'll get credit being the editor. You're the writer, Emil. And that's the kind of relationship, even though I never worked with them, I had a friendship, a professional friendship that I knew if we had to work together, we wouldn't throw things at each other. We wouldn't fight. We wouldn't do the things that reporter editors sometimes get into if they don't agree. Now, Henry was a great guy. I knew it. And through the years, we do different things. We tweet at each other. We tweet back. We retweet our things. So now I'm really sad I didn't go to the AJA last August, because I would have seen Henry. So that was quite a not. So I'm remembering Henry personally, but professionally, he's not like a lot of journalists who like do something and like they don't leave their mark. Look, editors leave their mark. And this is from the LA Times, the obit. Henry Fuhrmann, Times editor and word nerd who fought for fairness in grammar. I love that headline, because you fight where they let you fight. If you're a grammarian, darn it, that's where you're gonna wage battle. That's where you're gonna fight. And darn it, you're gonna win that war if you're good. Right? I mean, fought for fairness in grammar. Okay, now this is why it's important. This is from Thomas Kerwin, staff writer there. No one had really paid too much attention to the hyphen in matters of race and heritage, as in African-Americans or Italian-Americans. It was usually overlooked, an innocuous piece of punctuation that seemed to make sense. Henry Fuhrmann thought otherwise. Journalist and self-described word nerd, Fuhrmann saw in the simple construction an unnecessary and derogative diminution of American identities, and understood that no battle was too small in the fight for clarity, precision, and fairness. That encapsulates what fighting for grammar and the words we say, that's important. The simple construction of a hyphen, unnecessary and derogative diminution of American identities. Diminution of American. Yeah, I would see the hyphen and I would say, well, I like it. It's like something to grab onto, that hyphen. I pull it out, I use it as a stick, and I beat the guy who wrote it. Now Henry's a grammarian. He says, oh, the hyphen? He's the editor. He just says, unnecessary. Take it out. He yanked it out. I yanked it out and used it as a stick, and then I put it back in because right. Look, I was first in television, then in radio, and then I got to newspapers. I know I did my career backwards. Oh, look, now I'm talking to you. That's how backwards I am. But if you notice, if you're a print guy listening to this, I got to print when they were still using Coyote. That's software the newsrooms had to deal with editors. And I'll tell you, the hyphen. If you were in radio and TV, you didn't care about grammar. You hardly cared about spelling. You did everything phonetically to make sure you pronounce it right. I mean, this is just off the top of my head. I'd say Marcos, Marcos. But if you had a problem, you'd never say Marsos. Marsos? You wouldn't spell it Markos, Marcos. But, in broadcast, it's all just about how it sounds. And so many people just spell phonetically. They don't care about grammar. Words, they might care about writing in words to a degree. But for the most part, it's in newspapers where I can appreciate a guy like Henry. This is what Henry said about the hyphen. Those hyphens serve to divide even as they are meant to connect. Their use in racial and ethnic identities can connote an otherness, a sense that people of color are somehow not full citizens or fully American. That kind of says it. I mean, I would look at the hyphen as a non-editor. I'd say, oh, yeah, there's a connection there. It's like a bridge, a rope. Okay, good. It's like a funnel. It's like a straw that you're like spitting peas through. Pea shooter. No, it's a thing, right? Like I said, I would grab it, yank it out, use it as a weapon to hit the writer who wrote it, and then stick it back in because those are the rules. And if you're a newspaper guy, it's all about AP style, right? AP rules. And Henry, in his essay, 2019 essay, he wrote about how the hyphen othered people, even as it attempted to show it was bridging two words, Asian and American. Back to the LA Times obit. Tenacious and principled, Fuhrmann campaigned against its usage in newsrooms around the country and succeeded in persuading the profession's high court, the Associated Press stylebook, AP style, to rescind its dictate on the hyphen when referring to an American person's heritage. Wow. This is not an easy. AP style is like the Bible. And that was one of the things that when I crossed over from broadcast to print, they say you got to learn AP style, Emil. I don't care. It's harder than you think. Like I will always write, instead of saying number one, I'll always write NO.1 because that's AP style. They don't say number one and spell it out. Of course, every place you work has their own style book as well as AP style. So the New York Times has on second reference, you always add the Mr. Like Mr. Jones becomes, or so-and-so Jack Jones becomes Mr. Jones on second reference. Donald Trump on second reference becomes Mr. Trump. And that was New York Times. It wasn't AP style. But so many times I now see people refer on second reference. Mr. Trump did this. Mr. Trump lied again. He lied once. He lied the second time. AP, the power of style is what I'm getting at. So at a national meeting of copy editors, Henry went and persuaded AP style, the style book. Henry was an assistant managing editor for the Times until his retirement, and he received an ovation for his efforts. So now, even in the obituary, it only says he died after a brief and sudden illness. But here are some guys who are talking about him. He was a pillar among us, said John McIntyre, who recently retired as an editor at the Baltimore Sun. His campaign to get rid of hyphenated Americanisms was a long slog and an ultimately triumphal one that was long overdue. McIntyre said Fuhrmann's effort was part of a larger project to develop an intelligent and informed style for our publications that was free from some of the superstitions and shibboleths that had burdened the business for a long time. While at the Times, Fuhrmann initiated a change in usage from the outdated word transvestite to transgender. You know, words matter. I mean, I haven't heard transvestite, the word transvestite, in years. I've heard transgender, and it becomes common. Who is the gatekeeper there? Guys like Henry, working the copy desk. More recently, and this is important too for Asian Americans, Henry championed the fight against using the word internment, when actually we should be using the term incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II. Now, this is something that is still not 100% accepted. I mean, you'll see it interchanged. So we're going to go through this period. But AP accepted that, yes, you should say incarcerated instead of internment. That is no small thing. Words matter. Ruth Ann Salido, who supervises one of the Times desks, says, being a word expert is not just knowing the rules, it's also about being attuned to the changes in language that are bucking up against old language rules. Language is a living thing, and Henry was forward thinking. And that's Henry. I mean, Henry got the journalism bug. Like I said, an American son of a German-Danish Navy corpsman. Notice they didn't hyphenate German-Danish. They just said German-Danish. Henry was nothing but, he was a walking example of the issue that he championed. Asian American, German, Danish, Japanese mother. No hyphen there. Just Japanese mother. He grew up in Port Henry, California. Love for math and calculus. Okay, so maybe that's why Henry and I weren't like really great friends. Good enough friends on the English side, not on the calculus math side. Of course, he went to Caltech. He wanted to be an engineer. And then he started editing the student newspaper and found his calling. He got his master's in journalism from Columbia, went through the Times minority editor training program. And, you know, he's like a lot of, you know, as I think of it now, he's not the only guy I know who's been through that LA Times copy editing program. Another one of my good friends in New York. You know, those are, I mean, that's the thing about the Times. Times has always been forward thinking about bringing people, Asian Americans, African Americans into the business. And with Henry was, he was special. You know, He's one of those friends where professionally, because I didn't work with him, and I'm in Northern California, he's in Southern California. He was big on the Southern California, the LA AAJA scene. So we would connect journalistically through our associations. And even though we'd only see each other maybe 2-3 times a year, we connect on social media. The value of social media, right? Facebook, Twitter. There's Henry. We're happy to know that we were both there doing what we do. So he's going to be remembered. Every time you say Asian American and you don't hyphenate it, just wait for someone to say, do you hyphenate that? No. What would Henry say? He said it. AP accepted it. When you say Japanese internment, no. AP style, incarceration. Henry Fuhrmann, LA Times, copy editor. A lasting. This is a legacy. How many times do you say Asian American? How many times do you say Japanese American incarceration? World War II. I will never say either of those phrases without thinking about my old pal, Henry Fuhrmann. Pal, professional friend, lasting legacy. It's something. Legacy. All right, so I guess at this stage, no, I'll save that for later. I got to do a scam alert because this happened this morning. I get an email from someone saying he's with the Geek Squad. Said this will renew if you want to cancel, open the PDF and follow instructions. So I opened the PDF and what is this Geek Squad bid? And they said $400 is going to renew. You want to cancel, and the date to renew is today. If you want to cancel, call this number. I mean, you can Google it. Geek Squad scam, email scam. It's out there. And I suggest every time something like this happens, you do that. Google the scam, describe the scam, and see if it comes up. I didn't do that. I should have. Instead, I opened up the PDF. Ooh, could have been a virus. I don't think so. Could have. I called up the number. All right, no viruses in calling up on the phone. I get some guy in India, of course, not to throw the Indians under the bus, but it's coming from a call center in India. And the guy said, oh, I'll tell you how to get rid of this. He didn't really talk like he was representing Best Buy or the Geek Squad, so I got suspicious. So I just listened to him. He said, you have Chrome, right? Yeah. Go to Chrome and put down, he gave a website, and the website enables the other person to access your computer. That made me suspicious. It also made me suspicious when my protective software started lighting up saying, oh, this is you could possibly be downloading a software that will enable someone to take control of your computer. So then I hemmed and hawed and hung up on the guy. I did the Google search. I found out that yes, it was a scam. And they've been doing it for the last couple of years. Once again, they send you a PDF. It's from a Gmail account, which should make you suspicious immediately, saying they represent GeekSquad and Best Buy. And they say, you've been charged. If you want to cancel, open up the PDF and call that number. Now, I opened up the PDF. That didn't trigger off anything bad. But calling up the number and then following their instructions could. I'm warning you because, I mean, $500, $400, $500, it's a lot. I mean, if there was $500 on the ground, I'd pick it up. If I'm being charged $500, you could check your bank account first, but sometimes they're delayed. So I'm telling you about my situation because I was able to stop it. And once you know, an hour after I stopped it, they sent me another email. It's a scam. Beware. And definitely, I mean, you can fall for these phishing things all the time. They catch you off guard. And you just got to be careful. You got to be careful. This is the Geek Squad Best Buy email scam. Don't fall for it. Google it. Beware of it. Save your computer. All right. So, yeah, that migrant story is still top of mind. Although the story that is getting more traction is the special master idea, right? Trump got she's a lackey judge. The Eileen Cannon she's from Columbia, went to Duke University Law School, I believe. Young judge, inexperienced, and going out of her way to protect Donald Trump. Now, it's causing a delay in the Justice Department's investigation. And really, what needs to be said except, well, investigate the other documents, the non-classified, but remove the classified documents and allow the FBI and the DOJ to continue its investigation. She's not doing that. And so it's going to take a long time. And of course, everything is going to happen after the midterm. So it's not going to hurt the Republicans. It's not, well, what could hurt the Republicans? If the investigation finishes up in a logical and timely way, and if it's enough to indict Donald Trump. If Donald Trump's indicted, and this is a big issue, what would Republicans do? I mean, the speculation from the very beginning is even if Donald Trump were indicted, the Republicans would just fall in line. But I'm not so sure. And so this judge is helping out Donald Trump. Of course, Trump was on the radio. We talked about it yesterday. He said, oh, something's going to happen. Possibly violence. Possibly, well, he didn't say it, but he implied another January 6th. People aren't going to buy it. They're not going to buy that I'm Donald Trump, indicted document hoarder. But I just think we are in a strange time here. And I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens to Trump. I think that's why you see DeSantis and Abbott and all the other Republicans trying to kind of sneak up on Trump. While the guy's down, they're trying to take over. That's how the migrant story is connected. But as I said, the most positive thing to come out of all this, the migrants, and is if the Republicans and Democrats can come together and talk about immigration seriously. That's what they need. That's what they need. I'm just going through all the stories I wanted to talk about today. Unfortunately, not too many stories. There was a piece. It was a poll. Remember, I did the San Francisco Next poll yesterday. I talked about it, or this week, that showed that Asian Americans are in fear in their city. Being a native San Franciscan and a former resident, born in the city. Yeah, I was in the city, property owner in the city, went to public schools in the city, but then left because the city isn't what it used to be. I got family there still. Family's still in the city, but a poll conducted by the public radio station there surveyed 1,653 residents on their feelings about crime, policing, and violence in San Francisco. Everyone is concerned about crime now in the city. You know, they never were really concerned about crime. And I speak as someone who grew up in San Francisco as a paper boy, got up at 5 a.m. delivering the Chronicle when the Zodiac Killer was free. Like, can you imagine? That's why I'm like always looking over my shoulder. It's like the Zodiac. I mean, it's true. I mean, I would go through apartment buildings, dropping off newspapers. I go through little buildings because I was a good paper boy. Service with a smile. You want that paper under your doormat? It's under your doormat. I got to climb 10 steps to get to your doormat. I'm there. All the rest of you, I'm just like throwing it from my. You don't have a bicycle. The carriers who had bicycles, they weren't very efficient. Well, it's hard to do that in San Francisco. So you had a little card, or you carried. Had 100 papers on my back. I was a mule. Anyway, Zodiac Killer. Got 100 papers on my back. Always looking over my shoulder. I know about crime in the city. Anyway, they asked this question. The question was, during the last 5 years, was any item you owned ever stolen from you, or did that not happen during that time? During the last 5 years. Was any item you owned ever stolen from you? Or did that not happen during that time? 45% said yes. Now, it could be, oh, I left something on a park bench and it was stolen from me. It could be something more violent. But that's something. If almost half the people in San Francisco say, I've been robbed or burgled, something was stolen from me. Okay, I shouldn't say robbed or burgled because those are specific things having to do with violent acts. And this was just a question about someone stealing something from you. And then there were some more alarming stats. 43% of white people claimed they were victims of theft, while 54% of black residents and 55% of mixed race asserted they had been robbed in recent years. But that was in the Chronicle. So we got two different concurrent surveys. It all adds up to, it's strange in San Francisco right now. Not as safe. I don't know what the answer is. Cops on the beat, communities supporting each other. Although now it looks like more a community of wealthy, rich people more than anything, except, in certain pockets, in the places where, I mean, I would say even in those places that you thought were fringe places, like out by the borderline of Daly City. I mean, some of those houses are now upwards from $700,000, $800,000. I mean, it's not cheap. Even the poor sections are rising. And then all it takes is one person to sell to a gentrifying couple, and then the neighborhood changes, which actually is not a bad thing. But I mean, you see the changes in places like Bayview, places like Visitation Valley. And then the question happens, where do these people who get displaced go? Because sometimes they're just renters and they have their homes sold out from under them. And sometimes, in the case of my family's been there since, my family's been in San Francisco since the 20s, but never owned property until I came around in the 80s. So it's sad. And I'll probably be in San Francisco sooner than later. I guess this is the time of the program to talk about a special time in my life. It's my anniversary. Yeah. Of the show, Emil? No, not of the biggest show. Bigger than this. There's a show bigger than this. I'm talking about my anniversary. Of my marriage to my wife, Kathy. Happy anniversary. We've been together more than 30 years. I won't go into specifics because that takes a higher form of math. But we've been together for so long, and boy, it's been the best thing in my life. You know, and you have kids, right? You start a family, you think, oh, we've just expanded. That's the great thing in my life, or our lives. And the family's good. But the marriage is better. Anyway, I remember the day. We drove up in my Alfa Romeo. I had this old, thank goodness I had a good mechanic, because the Alfa was firing. It was like all excited, firecracker Alpha. You could hear it backfiring all the way up as we drove from San Francisco. We got up to Lake Tahoe. We got there, and we were told that the chapel had been condemned. Now, this can't be a good thing. This cannot be a good thing. You go to get married, and they said, we may have to cancel because the building's been condemned. Oh, well, thank goodness, not the marriage. Oh, the marriage hasn't happened yet, so we can't be condemned. What do? They gave us a choice. You can go to the side of the road. There's a nice bluff overlooking the lake. Not too many tourist buses will get in the way of your ceremony. Or you can go to Harvey's, a casino. Yeah, we've rented some conference rooms. It will look like a real business conference, a merger and acquisition. You'll have a great time. And we'll bring the little, I mean, we're not Jewish, but they have the little huppah, you know, the little arch and a little riser platform. And we didn't know what to do. Finally, all right, let's do that. We're going to go to the casino. And we had a race. The casinos are big, you know. We had our Coleman cooler with the cake and the champagne. racing through the crap tables and the slot machines. Man, it was like a couple of football fields. And we had to tell, the people we had invited where they would be. I mean, it was an elopement. But still, you had a couple people there. You got witnesses. And you had cake. Cake made it official. We had cake. Cake and a little champagne. Common cooler. My wife's in her dress. We make it just in time. We seal the deal. That was more than 30 years ago. The best decision I ever made in my life. So that's it for the show today. I mean, look, I was bent over. I was feeling terrible yesterday. Just thinking about my friend Henry and the bad blueberries I ate. Now I'm thinking about my lost hyphen. I don't regret losing the hyphen. Although I always thought, like I said, I grabbed the hyphen, I'd use it as a weapon. And I'd beat the crap out of the writer. And I'd stick it back. Except that would be violent. I'm not violent now. So, regular listeners of the show know that I wind up with a little meditation. Of course. Meditation. It helps. It helped me last night with the pain. It helped me last night with the pain. And, my wife gave me a little heart. Thanks, honey. I heart you too. She helped me last night with the pain too. Can I get you some water? Water, it turns out, is what you need. And then I said, no, check the medicine cabinet for maybe there's some medicine or something that I could take. And we must be really healthy. We had medicine in the cabinet, but it was all like, it's hard to believe. We had these tablets that were like 13 years past expiration. Does that make sense? Who carries that those kind of pills that long? One was 13, one was like 9 years only. I said, that's all right, I'll just deal with the pain. Meditation, it works. Meditation works. So, and of course, it's a loving kindness meditation. It's the only meditation worth doing. Because it's what we need more of. It's what we need more of. So, before we get into the loving kindness meditation, just a reminder, you can catch all our shows on amok.com, live and replayed over the weekend. Hey, this week's show's been pretty good, I think. Catch my columns on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Here, I put it up there. Yeah. This is show 391. 390 was good. 389, 388, 387. Started off the week pretty good. Check them out. Then go back further. You can all go back further. You can catch it there at amok.com. Also on Twitter. You can go back on Twitter at Emil Amok. Oh, he's wearing a different shirt today. Oh, even this gong is wearing a different shirt. Oh, sometimes. amok.com or EMIL at EMIL AMOK on Twitter. And then YouTube. YouTube. It's like a private session on YouTube. Emil Guillermo, the YouTube channel. So it's all there. Oh, FB, facebook.com/EmilGuillermo.media. And you can catch it all. All right, so those are our plugs. I won't plug the play that I'm in coming up in October. Virtual reading at the Theater for the New City. It's virtual, so you can be anywhere. You don't have to be in New York. I'm not going to be in New York, but under the guise of the Theater for the New City. It's called The Conductor by Ishmael Reed. I'll talk about it more next week. All right, so our meditation, it's the loving kindness meditation, metta, where you look out at someone. And you should do it like 4 different times. Do it with a person that you love, person that you hate, because you don't want to improve that situation. Do it with a person that you're indifferent to. And then a last category, everyone else. That's like beyond indifference. They're just, and include the animals. And each one by one, you go through this little process. And by putting it out to each one, you generate more love that comes back to you. It works. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Back again next week. 2 p.m. Pacific Live right here. Till then, mahal